Welcome to the Profitable Cleaner podcast. Join your hosts, James Harper and Angel Sandoval, bringing you the experts, discussions, and knowledge you want. We talk about sales, technology, marketing, operations, strategy, leadership, mindset, health, God, and so much more. Now, are you ready to profit?
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Profitable Cleaner. Yeah, that's right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today in the house, we have some really special guests. First of all, help me welcome my co-host, James Harper. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Look at this room. Look at this expert panel. I could not be more excited, but we've never done a podcast with this many guests.
Yeah, and for those that are listening right now, this podcast is live. There's a live audience. Watch this. I've always wanted to do this. Is there a live audience right now? Is there a live audience right now? Okay, I'm done.
I think you'd be a good TV show host.
Maybe.
But
Depends.
you would need people to watch
Depends depends the TV show. TV, yeah. No, I can see it. If you guys have any recommendations, write them down on the index cards and bring them up. But no, we're super excited to have our 5 guests, and they were actually not going to ask the questions. We always ask the questions in our podcast. We always come prepared, but I feel like this is going to be a great interaction. Now, for the live audience here, you know what makes a great podcast a great podcast? Make sure that there's not of what just happened, which is a bunch of, yeah, right? You see what I'm saying?
Silence.
A bunch of dead silence because you don't want to participate. Let's not do that. That's what makes a great podcast, being able to process, ask, give, right? Participate. So, James, why don't you introduce our expert panel so that the ones listening in that are not here know exactly who's going to answer the questions.
If you're listening to this or watching it anywhere in the world, we got the one and only Marquess with Wingfoot Services, Ernesto Moreno with Moreno and Associates, Dan Schindler with Integrity Facility Solutions, Mike Sawchuck with Sawchuk Consulting, and the one and only Mark Anderson. Mark, I'm sorry, I identify you as Mark Anderson.
From the Profit Growth Initiative.
You got my name right.
There we go.
That's half the battle. Here we go. All right, audience, you guys ready? So what we're going to do is I actually am going to steal one mic. You guys are going to use one mic. So what I'm going to do is raise your hands now if you have the questions that you have prepared so that we can get this kicked off. So I'm going to count it down because I can already tell that there's going to be dead air even though I clearly asked for no dead air. So 3, 2, who's got the first question? Raise it up like you have the question. Okay, so we got Bryn from Accurate Janitorial. This is going to be like marketing for everybody. We're going to mention your name and your company. Here we go. Bryn, first question, stand up. And tell us, if you have to specifically guide it to someone, go ahead. If not, ask it broadly and they can answer.
Okay, I think this question is for Dan. So we are trying to scale, and we are 100% all subcontractors, but we're trying to balance between staying in a 100% subcontractor area, but also not be targeted by the IRS for conflating that with having employees. So we want to stay safe in having our subcontractors and the processes to do that, and also scale up to something to where you're at.
How is your current subcontract model? Do you guys have business-to-business contracts with all of them?
Yes.
So the main thing, the biggest thing that happens is people think that they write a check to a person and give them a 1099 at the end of the year and they're, a subcontractor. Well, that's obviously not the case. Has anybody ever been through a labor board audit? So one of the things they look for is whether or not that person is really like solely working for you is one of the first things they look through. And then whether they have a business name, whether they have employees, those type of things. We have everyone from the gamut from self-performers, as we call them, so ones that are just, they don't have any helpers really, they just clean the buildings themselves. The key really to that, all of that, is just to make sure that you have a contract with them. You have, they have a business name or a DBA, and that in some situations you can't really do it, but for the most part, all of our stuff is designed around scope of work, versus hours. I've heard a lot of the self-performing companies that they sell hours versus scope of work. In our world, it's really built around the scope of work. So we really push towards scope of work instead of actually building a schedule of hours for them. And so when we have our conversations with our customers, it's really about scope of work, what are we going to perform, and not really try to pin down the hours, because that's another thing the IRS looks at. They look at whether or not, if you tell them to be there from 8 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon, then they're going to call that, a misclassified employee. So, the key obviously is if you get audited by the labor board or the IRS and they find out that you have all these what we call misclassified employees, they're going to go back and charge you all those 941 taxes and everything for the period of time that you have those. So you just want to make sure, A, you're under contract, they actually have a business name and that. So I think I went over my 90 seconds, sorry.
Let's go. Great.
Are we allowed to follow up?
No, because remember what we said? There was rules. Yeah.
One question for now.
Yeah, one question. Where's the next question? Raise your hand if you've got a question, and then Sophia's actually going to take you over the mic. We got one over there, Sophia, with Juan Padilla from Spotless. You need a mic, though, because this is a live podcast, brother.
So, Dan, I think just to tag team on that is, I know you build everything off of scope of work, but say you assume that a facility is going to take estimated 10 hours and that sub is only spending 5 hours and quality is obviously deteriorating. So how do you, monitor that, and then how do you address that? Because, again, you can't go based off of hours. Right.
So we do, obviously frequent inspections. If we see a trend that's happening with a particular subcontractor in the realm of, let's say, a sub is constantly missing dusting, what I try to do is figure out where the gaps are at in those 5 hours. So if if you're saying, okay, we do this X scope of work, well, then just go through the scope of work and figure out what they're actually missing in that scope of work, and then address those issues in particular. And then if we have, we call them ICs in our company, but if we have an IC that's continually missing those areas and they're not doing what we think they should do, then, obviously we replace. I live by, if you guys know who Brad Lee, I live by kind of his theory on the 3 T's, which is what are you tolerating? If whatever it is you're tolerating is, the second thing we look at is if we're going to tolerate it, we're going to stop tolerating it. And then we're going to train. So whatever we're tolerating is probably something we need to train on. And then if they don't have the training, then we'll terminate. And so we kind of go through a process, but a part of that is just changing out our IC and making sure that they're meeting the scope of work.
Perfect. All right, just going to start going. So Ricky Funk.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ricky Funk. So I have a question about operations. So when someone starts a business, they're doing 100K, 200K, 500K, even a mil, they're very reactive to the business, right? They're not being proactive. At one point, you start being proactive and start seeing things before they happen. Is there something that you guys can share on seeing those things before they happen? Do you have a blueprint? Do you have a system that helps you, plan ahead, seeing things before they actually happen? It could be not just problems, but also opportunities, different things.
I think this might be a multiple
Yeah, no, of
person
course,
answer.
of course. No, yeah, whoever wants to
one.
participate, grab the mic right here from Dan. And if you guys want to participate, we can do that.
Well, you're trying to see around corners. So the only way to see around corners is have a framework. I call it QMS, Quality Management Systems, out of ISO 9000. You don't have to go to ISO, but you have to have your systems in place. So you have to have your job outcomes, your tasks, your responsibilities, and your metrics. They've got to be understood up and down your service chain, regardless of the position, and then you have to work and interact with your team that they're meeting those and where the gaps are. And that's how you keep your eyes on your organization as you move out of that particular position and scale up and do other things.
Adding to what Mark said is that having those product policies, protocols in place is very important, the systems. It's like a foundation of a house. If you don't have a strong foundation, you have a house of cards, it's going to come tumbling down. So really focus on getting that foundation. From there, ensure that you're moving up from just not only the product policies, protocols, et cetera, but move into your people. We heard about the importance of how do you attract, how do you recruit, how do you onboard, how do you develop, how do you train those people? So making sure that when you're looking at it, also address your people, because they're the engines and the drivetrain of your company. The last thing is looking at understanding the difference between management and leadership. And Dan this morning on his talk is really about leadership, because they're the ones that create that culture, or not. Either they do or they don't. Is it one of engagement, empowerment, high trust levels, and motivation, and employee satisfaction? And so it's really the leadership who's driving and fueling the culture, and the culture is important for the people, and then it all based around having good systems in place.
Ernesto,
Anybody
Molly,
wanna add
do
from
you
the
guys
panel?
want to add to that?
I'll give it a quick shot, and then I think that's probably one of the reasons why I'm in the room as well, because of Mike and Mark's expertise in this industry is, it's invaluable, and we'll follow up with both of them moving forward, even after 30 years. But I think in simpler forms for me, when I was, we grew all organically. First employee to our last employee that we hired. We only subcontract when we have to scrub and wax 10,000 square feet over a weekend, and we're too busy, and we have a couple good, reliable subcontractors. But I think the simplest part that we tried to put out, Ricky, you were asking about how do you forecast that, is you really need to understand what your sales representative sold, okay, and really understand what it is that they're looking for. And it's almost silly sometimes we say God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Well, you got to use both ears first, because if you go tell them what they're going to want, they're going to tell you it's not what I asked for. You listen to what they ask for, and you provide what they ask for, and if you need to go above and beyond, that's where the upsales come from. So you keep it as simple, you deliver the message through your executive team, through your supervisory team, and to the frontline worker that's going to perform the work. And if you can accomplish that with some of these great metrics, it's super. But if you're just getting started, or if you want to understand where to go, understand what it is that you sold and provide the services that you sold, and then you can grow from there.
Hi. Definitely the systems and metrics are super important, of course. Check your work. So part of what our company does that differentiates us a little bit from others is that our account managers see our clients, depending upon the size of the client, either every single week or twice a month or once a month, depending upon size. And our philosophy behind that is that my account manager is there on site to do 3 things. 1, build a relationship with the client. 2, see if there's any additional opportunities where we can pick up a cross-sell or something else that we can provide for them. And then the third thing is to check our employees' work and to get their feedback. And then anytime that inspection doesn't pass over 85%, it automatically tells our operations team that we either need to retrain or they're not spending their time. It's usually one of the 2 things. And that from there, we will schedule a supervisor, have a conversation, schedule a supervisor for a retraining, and then check up the next week to see if we've corrected the problem or not.
All right. Additional questions, raise your hand, and let's get this party going. All right. The mic is making its way over to you.
Hey, well, while we're doing that, actually, the gentleman that just asked the question, Ricky Funk, we got to give a shout out to Ricky Funk here. He just became a U.S. citizen yesterday. So that's actually the second one.
Man.
So
that's 2 U.S. citizen celebrations during the event.
Isn't that cool?
Oh, I love it.
That's awesome.
Oh, no, we won't. No one will. No one will. Love it. All right.
All right. This question, I think, is for Mike Sawchuk. Based on your experience with both supply and the BSC space, is there a formula or a way that BSCs can take on the additional service of supply ordering and supply management? I do this with a couple clients, but I want to see if there's a benchmark or a percentage or a formula that we as BSCs can do to add this as a service offering.
That's a great question.
Oh, let's get to that mic first. The mic to mic.
Mike the Mike. Great question, Ricky. It's important to look at the scope of things. You're not trying to shift, costs or value from one to the other. You're really trying to work together with the distribution partner, yourself, and the client to eliminate those costs, eliminate some inefficiencies. And typically, it all depends on that situation. There's some distribution partners that are better than others. They'll have the right products at the right price at the right time. Others are going to have tons of back orders, or they have overstock. So I don't know if there's just one right answer, but directionally that's the way to go. You need the right products at the right time to be efficient in cleaning. If you have equipment that's down, that could impact the overall cleaning results if the auto scrubber's gone for a week, and if you're not having the right products. So the point is, great initiative, and then where the BSC could come into play is by challenging the different distribution partners on who's giving the best value in terms of bringing in manufacturer expertise. Cleaning challenges, you ask your employees, we're having a problem with efficacy of this particular product versus or health and safety issue, being able to work with the distribution and find that solution. So as long as it's there to not move costs or but eliminate costs, it makes a lot of sense. Distribution can provide a lot of value, but not all of them today provide value, the same value across the board. So I always recommend there's some distribution you buy on price. It's commodity type products, your liners, your paper, etc. All you want them to do is give you the cheap price and move those boxes very inefficiently and have them when you need it. Others are for equipment, so you want a distribution that typically understands preventative maintenance programs. If your equipment goes down, that they could get it fixed right the first time on site, etc. And then typically you may need a third one that's able to have the expertise in specialty chemicals. So I don't know if I answered it directly, but the point is they try to bring greater value to the overall relationship between distribution, customer, and yourself. And then there's not, I don't think, one model that fits all, but you just really got to work with it, understanding what your customer needs are and what your capabilities are. But there's definitely room for changing that model in terms of somebody's going to just supply boxes. Well, then you don't really need a hands-on distributor. You could buy that from, through the website or, the paper type of people.
Did I answer your question, brother? Cool. All right, additional questions. Let's get it. All right, we got the next one over there. Or if you could just pass it back. Yeah, just hand it back. Yeah, there we go. All right. Thank you, Sophia. Appreciate it.
Hello, everyone. This question actually just came to my head. We're huge Tesla fans at IFS, and we now have self-driving cars. So with the natural progression of technology, what are y'all's thoughts on our industry becoming automated? We've all seen those videos online, self-cleaning robots, etc. Just want to get your thoughts on that and what you think.
Who wants to start off? Who wants to kick us off? All right.
Good luck. I think that it's going to be really hard for any machine to take away the human factor that's required in trying to assess what every cleaning opportunity is needed in any given building. I mean, you can, at Costco, at Sam's Club, you can see all the floor machines that are just being remotely operated or a robot. I'm sorry, but who's going to clean those bathrooms and what if it gets stuck and how are you going to keep it fixed? And there's a huge cost associated with that equipment and keeping it fixed. And I don't think that that's ever going to surpass having people to do the work. Service industries are among the top 5 growing industries in the country, and so I think it'll stay there.
About 10 years ago, I had a gentleman come to me, and I think they're coming more back online about the automatic robot that plugs itself in and cleans the bathrooms, and it's got all these PVC pipes that can make all the motions. And it was interesting because I started grilling him, and I said, well, let's take a listen. Technology is approaching quickly, and maybe there's an opportunity. But one of his last caveats was that machine needed a full-time person to make sure that it didn't break down. In case it did, that they would have to finish the work, and that's never going to change. So I said, I think that answered my question. But, when you're talking about technology and how it's improved our industry, I think as we saw coming out of the pandemic, that some of these manufacturers really did a nice job with bringing to market touchless dispensers and touchless water faucets and, possibly, in some of the toilets, obviously automatic flush. They brought more options to market, because as we saw, as these options were opportunities for ourselves and our clients, they were very, very expensive. So the onset of this pandemic really allowed more people to come to market because of demand. And so the demand brought the cost down, and it brought other players into the market because of the supply chain disorder and disruption that was happening. So I think in our industry there's some good. I would wish that these machine manufacturers that do automatic scrubbers, the vacuums and such, would create better machines so they're not in the shop, or create more universal machines so that our field representatives can actually fix them without having to turn them in. And that would make our industry actually more streamlined.
Anyone want to add anything to that?
Just to add to the points, I don't think there's a one answer. I don't think there's anybody that could sit in a room today or outside the audience saying, I know exactly what the future holds in store. If they're saying that, they're misleading you. There's a couple different things at play. Number one is this whole convergence of different technologies. It's not just, robotics. You're looking at, in the real world, moving to blockchain. And what does blockchain technology, how's it going to impact FM? And if impacts FM, how are they going to impact the cleaners working with FM? Changing things like, okay, we're not selling you an elevator, we're not selling you a HVAC system. They're going to say, we own it, we own the intelligence, we'll do all the maintenance for it. We're just going to pay, you don't want a furnace or an escalator, you want warm, comfortable conditions on the HVAC. You want something that's moving people up and down. So why are you buying the asset? So I think the convergence of blockchain, combine that with 5G technology, moving from 4G to 5G, what does that mean for the volume and speed of information being changed? Augmented learning, artificial learning, machine learning, artificial intelligence, what that's going to do. Digitalization. If I encourage BSCs, if you're not moving towards a digital world, you're going to be left behind. The challenge is going to be either you're going to be a disruptor or you're going to get disrupted if you're not careful with that technology. And with robotics, I turn it around. I had a client that said, well, we don't want the robots, or the union doesn't want robots. And I've actually had conversations with unions and say, why not? Well, they're not paying union dues. I said, okay, we'll let the robot pay a union dues. Will you accept it? By all means. So now you say, okay, we give a robotic auto scrubber, we'll pay the union dues, but what does that mean for our staff? If you're having difficulty finding staff, well, then you now have a robot doing a lot of that mundane tasks. So you could take your aging workforce and give them jobs that are maybe easier on the body, make them feel a greater value that they're not doing some of the repetition staff. You're providing probably a higher level of clean because you're not necessarily replacing the people, you're augmenting the people. You're doing things that you may not have been able to do. So the technology is going to be a challenge to those that figure it out, and they're going to be able to disrupt others. Those that don't figure it out, they will get disrupted, because it just means a different way of doing business. That means FM, that means also cleaning, and also the salespeople. Salespeople that like Ricky's question, from the distribution or the manufacturers, they're going to have to acquire different skills if they're going to bring value to this new world. And if they don't, then those sales reps will be disrupted as well.
All right, hang with me for the next minute and a half. We got a quick break here in the Profitable Cleaner because we're officially official. It's like I like to say it. Why? Because I get to take this break and introduce our sponsors. First sponsors is USource. So go to usource.com. That's USOURCE.com. This is a business management platform for facility services companies. No more chaos, unnecessary admin work, or just having to consolidate information. This is about you not being the source of information anymore and having a platform that can give you the accessibility, visibility, and control over your operation. So see more, do more, whether you're one employee or 3,000 employees, this is the platform for you. So check out our sponsor, usource.com. Our second sponsor, dayporter.com. They will help you with all your outbound, LinkedIn, email, call, and they're going to do it with a team from Latin America. So make sure that you reach out to them, dayporter.com. They can help you hire your next superstar and give you the strategies to go book the walkthroughs that you're looking for. The third one is going to be Melgar Consulting. That's alexmelgar.com. If you're hovering around the $5 million range and you're in the facility services industry, want to hit those 20, want to keep bumping your head and really want to scale, he is going to be able to consult and help you have the right foundation, the right structure, and the right strategies, and the right advisory and consulting to get you past those 5 to 20 million. So go to alexmelgard.com. And last but not least, our fourth sponsor, cleaningprofits.com. That is our annual event for facility services CEO, executive teams, leadership teams. Bring them out. This is all about transformation. It's all about training. It's all about community. And it's held once a year, this year, September 12th to the 14th. So thank you once again to all of our sponsors, and let's continue on to the show.
Tough act to follow. We'll see how I do. I would say keep an open mind. I've been out of the business now 10 years, and I've stayed in as an advisor. We were early on adopters. I think it was U.S. Robotics, and you actually had to learn how to program the machine. They served a purpose. Long hauls, hospitals, think hybrid. How can you use this technology to your best advantage? And to some of your points, Mike, if we've got people that can't do a full job, can they do a job that with support of something in robotics? Clean a toilet, I watched that video, forget it. That's like a client that said to me the other day, I have all this data and still have problems, and I know what the problems are. I said, well, you've got one problem. Data needs people. Data needs people to analyze and implement and put it to work and get it. The data's never going to do the work for you. I'm sorry, until we get the chatbots running and the AI is so strong that, we don't even need salespeople, and I'm joking. We don't need reps. They'll answer your customer's problem. It'll send you the ticket, and you'll just put everybody to work. But keep an open mind. Think hybrid. This is changing fast. And believe me, I started my business in 1974. I have seen a lot of changes in this industry. And I've seen a lot of changes in square foot, production, performance, and quality. So I would say, see how you can use it. Some of it makes sense. Some of it doesn't make sense. To Mike's point, will it make sense? Possibly. And just don't let the technology get in front of you where you go in and somebody's bidding and they beat your hands down by 30% because they figured out the technology. Keep an open mind, think hybrid.
Sorry, just one last point is, don't buy the technology because it's the in thing, it's a cool thing to have. Make sure you really understand what is your business problem and ensure this technology will solve that for you. Otherwise, take a pass on it. You need to be, as Mark said, actively involved in doing your research, understanding what's out there, what's coming, what are the potential benefits or pitfalls, but do not embrace a particular technology without it really being able to have identified what business problem does it solve or provide for you.
All right. We're just doing questions right now, brother.
Can I
Appreciate
say something
it,
real
though.
quick?
Oh, you're going to say, yeah, go for it,
Yeah.
go for it.
Absolutely.
I figured my team was setting me up with a question here, so that's why I went last. So I am a big Tesla guy. I own a few Teslas, a Tesla Plaid. And so what people mostly don't understand about Tesla is that Tesla's not a car company. They're an artificial intelligence company. And so as these cars are driving around, they're actually creating artificial intelligence. Like when I drive my car, it's memorizing my routes. So as you drive the car, they get better and better and better on autopilot. So one of the things that Elon's trying to do is build his robot, which is called Optimum. And through that robot, that's actually going to look like a human being. It's going to be your personal assistant, your butler, like all these different things. And people say there's no way that technology will ever work. Well, I'm a believer that it will work. At some point, it will work. I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime or not, but it's going to work because, we keep pushing. I come from way old school. Like when I started in Janitorial, they didn't even have backpack vacuum cleaners yet. The first backpack that came out was we were strapping canister backs, to our back, and then all of a sudden Pro Team came out, and next thing you know, now they've created a whole new evolution, and it's like, well, the backpack I could even live without it now. And I think it's going to be the same way with artificial intelligence. These guys, they're going to develop a human-like robot that will do physical human things. I don't know how long it'll take for that to happen. I'm of the mindset when it happens, these robots are supposed to be about $30,000 a piece. I'm going to buy a whole bunch of them, and I'm just going to lease them back to my clients, and I'm going to say, here's your personal assistant, here's your butler, and that, it sounds like a sci-fi movie, right? But I want to be one of those guys that's in front of that technology. I want to be the first one in line to buy all those robots and see what happens, just for fun, So anyway, that's my thoughts on it.
Those are
Dan,
great thoughts.
leave it to your team to spark like the biggest question that gets varying thoughts here, right? Good question, man. I'm actually going to break a rule here. I want to ask a question.
Yeah, go for it. There was never rules.
My rule number one is there were no rules.
Yeah, Fight Club, let's go.
Actually, my question's for Molly.
Okay.
Molly just recently acquired 3 companies in a short amount of time. We had a talk on expansion and acquisitions and all that. You obviously were highly involved in your Wingfoot Services, the main janitorial company leading up to those acquisitions and that growth. You're also a mother, a wife. How do you manage it all? I've actually thought this about you.
I think you've asked me a time or two, Molly, do you ever sleep? Because you'll get random emails from me at all times of the day or night. Thank you. It's a great question. I will probably revert back to something that Fernando said yesterday. Regardless of how I feel, get up, get dressed, show up, and never, never give up. I can tell you that over the last 9 months, I've had to talk myself into that more than once. I've got a really great team that works with me, that does a lot to put up with all my crazy ideas. And by having that great team really enables me to still be able to leave and go home at 6 o'clock at night and be a mom for a minute. I also only have 1 kid, so maybe that's why too. But, one that's at home. But I still wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, even though it's been quite a challenge. Lots of pivoting, lots of balls to juggle. But it's been an incredible experience, and it's done wonders to grow my business. So, did that answer?
Awesome.
All
No,
right.
absolutely. That's a great answer.
Additional questions? Additional question? All right, we got 1 and then 2 over here. So Lisa's will go, and then we'll go Scott.
Alrighty. So if you think about your businesses and increasing the value of the business as an asset, right? What advice would you give anybody that's really, 3 years removed from starter space and beyond on how and what they should be doing to become either more bankable, more scalable, or even, more saleable? So what would be those best practices you would recommend?
And I believe some of you have sold your business, some of you have acquired businesses, so that's going to be, I'm curious
Good question.
what the answer is. Who wants to take that on? All of y'all are. Oh, we just volunteered now. Well,
Okay, reverts to me if
All
I've
in
got
told.
the mic. But, there's a lot of bottom line that's put on to the profitability of your business, as far as like what multiple and stuff like that you're going to get out of the sell of that business. So that if that is definitely your exit plan, is to sell the business to create and to fund your retirement or whatever it is, I would really try to focus on how can I keep that profitability, improve that profitability. I mean, the standard janitorial service, the national average is like 9%, which is actually really great. I mean, I think any of us would be so happy to have that number consistently, but there are other sellers out there that are like, 9%? Are you nuts? Like, why would I want to buy a business that's only going to make 9%? No, I want 20, I want 30. Okay. And then operations and processes are super important for sure. I mean, especially if you're going to sell. If I'm a new owner and I'm walking into this business, how am I going to know how you get any of your stuff from day to day done? What do your books look like? What does your employees look like? How transferable is that information? And so trying to make the ease of that sell from someone that has just gone through 3 changes, the ease of sell has been, some have been better than others. Actually, one of the businesses that I bought was from Josh Bell, who is here with me today. The first time I met him, I said, oh, I'm going to buy his business because I want him to come work for me. And somehow, some way, we talked him into coming in and being our sales guy, and is helping me create sales processes and things like that. So it's created some incredible opportunities as well. But yeah, profitability, processes, and trying to have that ease of acquisition.
All right. Anybody want to add anything?
I think that's great. I'm a little bit of a hybrid model on all these because everybody wants to make money, but I think I went into the business because I saw the opportunity to be my own boss, and to find value in time. And for the first 20 years, I found the value of the fact that I had some good people that I brought in to work with me, and it gave me the opportunity to spend time with my children. And it was incredible value. And you're not going to ever in your lifetime replace that bottom line to replace time. And that was the most important thing for me. So now I'm here, 63 years old. I'm really still excited about being in the business. Now I've got 2 of my kids, 2.5. My son works part-time with us. And I got that first opportunity to find great bottom line and value in being a father, being a present father, along with my wife. And secondly, then I started turning around. I said, how am I ever going to get out of the building if I don't make some money and leave something of a legacy on the economic end? So it was both a hybrid for me. Where's the value is a very, very big word. And I think I'm the richest man in the world.
So I know we could probably answer this question multiple times, but I know we have about 15 minutes left, so I want to make sure we can get to multiple people. Are you guys cool if we move to the next question? Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott. Oh, did it turn off or what? Oh, you turned. Oh, thank you.
Hi, I'm Scott Stanford with Modern Services. First of all, every one of you have sparked a whole lot of questions, but Ernesto said something when he came out about networking, and I think it'd be a missed opportunity to not take advantage of your 30 years of experience. Something that's been very fulfilling for me, or something that I really enjoy, is making a sale that's networked. You can market and do things, but when it's through that type of networking, it's a great feeling. On the other side of that coin, I think I've been on the waiting list as an associate for BOMA in my local area for about 2.5 years. 7 years. So, could you share some experience throughout your 30 years of some networking that's bared fruit for you?
So I really didn't even hear of BOMA or IFMA or all that much, when I was getting in this business. I've been in the business 40 years, had the same company for 31 years. But I wouldn't take this the wrong way. I've met a lot of my clients in bars. I've met a lot of my clients on the golf course. In interesting places, and just sitting down. You go to social events, everybody's got a job. Everybody before the pandemic had a butt to put in a seat, and every one of the seats that they put their butts in, somebody's got to clean them. And so when somebody asks you what you do, or you ask them what they do, and it comes full circle, I think there's a way to get the information you need and follow up with it at a later time. I've never tried to corner somebody and sell them our business while I'm having a cup of coffee, or we're there for another event. It's soft. It's soft, and you build a relationship, you keep the name, and now with the technology that we have, like the LinkedIn, you find them, and you build the trust, and you build the relationship. And believe it or not, they will call you, or they'll say, I know somebody, because somebody walks down the hall, and we've all heard it, even on our clients, that damn janitor. Well, I know somebody if you're looking to change, and so depending on what your niche is, every place where you walk in the door that has a toilet has an opportunity for you. And so you can go from there and start deciding what kind of field you want to be in. Stay in your lane. Don't bite off more than you can chew. But meet that person that might give you that opportunity. I'd be happy to talk some more later.
All right. We're actually going to do... Oh, I was going to take this. Why am I taking their mic? I'm mad at it. No, we got a question over here. Mr. Alex. And then I'm actually, after Alex, I am going to break the rules. You're right. I love doing that, huh? And you too. I'm going to give opportunity for one or two more questions after Alex. So make sure that you don't miss your opportunity. That's going to be you. And then you guys are going to have to deal with us for the last 10 minutes. So that'll be fun. So that'll be a good time. I have a few questions.
Well, obviously, all of you guys have many years of experience in the business. Some of you already exit the businesses. Some others have grown the business to 400 plus contractors. What will be, in a simple word, advices that you will tell those that are starting in this career, knowing all the hurdles and hard moments that they're going to go through? What will be, in a simplified words, you will summarize how they should approach this venture?
Since I have the mic, I'll go first.
Hey, own it.
You know, the biggest thing, and it's kind of cliche, but it's never give up. I could sit here for another hour and tell you the stories of things that I've been through and times I've gotten slapped upside the head, whether it's lawsuits or that big customer canceled, or, you know, you put all your eggs in one basket and then, you know, that basket goes away. But the key there is never give up. You know, the other side of it really comes down to whether or not you have passion for the business. You know, if it's something that you love, it's a lot easier to get through the hard times when you love it. And I mean, I absolutely love this business. Actually, I'll tell a funny story here. So I grew up in the business. I started out in this business at age 12, believe it or not. That was back in the day when you could have kids in buildings, and my dad cleaned one building for 26 years, and so I was his assistant vacuumer at age 12. Ran the business all the way till about 19, and I got into aviation, pursued a career in flying. I actually was a pilot for UPS, flying feeder routes. I gave up being a pilot to be a janitor. And my wife, who's here with me today, would not tell her coworkers that I quit being a pilot to be a janitor. And so it's really about what you're passionate about. I loved janitorial. It was in my blood. I couldn't get it out of my blood. I'd be flying my routes. I'd be set the autopilot in the airplane, and I'd read books on how to build janitorial businesses. And so the key is obviously sticking to it, stay in there, but do what you're passionate about. If you're not passionate about it, it's just going to go away.
We'll start over there if you want here. We'll just go down the line over here. Okay.
One word, that's pretty hard. Do it, get involved. It's a great business to have, for sure. And met some incredible people doing it. And there's plenty of opportunity.
I think, you know, being with the dynamic people in this room, there's not one of us, whether you run a $500 million company, a $1 billion company, or you're just starting, learn from others in your industry. Listen, because you don't know it all, you'll never know it all. But own your mistakes. Make a mistake, you call back, or you found out you made a mistake before the client did, own it. Go in there, run towards the fire, own it, fix it. They'll understand that you're human. I think that's one of the greatest assets. We're trying to always, you know, not make mistakes. We're not robots. We're not Teslas. They make mistakes. Anyhow, I just think that's one of the greatest advice you can give. You know, learn from experience, but we're going to make mistakes, so own them and be forthright with your clients. The other thing that I felt that we've been pretty good is I've probably put 30 people in the business that used to work with me. And one of the concerns was, well, aren't you afraid they're going to take your business? Well, if somebody takes my business, they walked in the front door and they took the business from me, I better look in the mirror because it was probably something I did wrong. Empower other people, empower your employees to want to be the best that they can be so that they can go out and start their own business. You know what? Most times they come back and thank you for that opportunity, or they come back and say, a little too deep of water for me, can I come back to work? So those are the small pieces of advice that I have.
We heard today from people that were very, very successful in building the companies. And all credit to them. But in the industry, not every custodial operation, not every entrepreneur ends that way. Some of them work 30 years and it's just a job. They're just putting a paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. So it's like a pancake. On one side, you got the successful entrepreneurs that built companies that are leaving legacies behind, but there's others that aren't. And I think the difference is that they start understanding that they're not just running the business. If so, if they don't put the right systems in place for sales, operations, and then the people, that's where they fail. Because the whole business is them. They go get the sale. They're like your dad, 27 years is doing that one building, et cetera. So you got to sit there and say, I want to develop systems to sales. Because at the beginning, it's easy to get sales. It might be easy to get a couple people working for you, but then that's a challenge. If you can't get more sales, but you're good at finding and keeping good people, what good are the people? Or if you're good at getting sales, but you can't find people or keep people, you're going to fail. So you got to sit there and say, I want to move from running the business, to be managing, leading the business, and put those systems in place. And as Molly said, to change that multiplier so that business doesn't rely on you or anybody else. That's really where the multiplier effect comes in. You grow steady sales, you grow steady profitability, and if they look at that company and says, you know what, Molly could step out of it, Ernesto could step out of it, and yet the business no potential for tanking. And that's really the success you've managed and led to be, leading the business as opposed to being the business or running the business. That becomes a mindset.
Well, I'm going to take a little different turn here. The first, we can talk about money in a second, but everybody needs a true north. I found my true north in my faith in Jesus Christ, okay? That was me. You can find yours, whether it's meditation, yoga, whatever you practice. I think we all need spiritual grounding. This is a grinding, hard business. I mean, I'm listening to Dan tell the tales. I got the same one. We could probably talk for 4 weeks, all of us up here, about how beat up, losing $1 million worth of business, laying awake, just getting raked over the coals. This is a tough business. If you can run this business, I'll guarantee you, you can run anything else, including a restaurant, which I had a little bit of experience in once in my life. So whatever your true north, you need a spiritual focal point. Then you need a family. I would not be sitting here today telling you about the success of CBM Systems and what I've done without my wife running the house, running the kids, allowing me to be gone from home 35% of the time for 30 plus years. And we met, I was only 3 years into the business, so she really bought a pig in a poke, okay? I mean, I had nothing but debt. Moving on to the financial, my favorite saying is revenue for vanity, profit for sanity, cash is always king. D-O-O-R-C, or D-R-O-O-C. Don't run out of cash. A friend of mine was in a class at Harvard, and that was the first thing the guy said in the MBA class. Don't run out of cash. So watch, know your finances. So many of us, when we start, do not pay attention to finance. We don't know what the cost of goods sold are. We don't know what our SG&A is. And we don't know what our bottom line is. So get back to when Molly's buying a business, they look at what you're putting out. They look at your EBITDA, and there's multipliers. I'm not going to go into all that. But that's what they buy. And then they start looking at your long-term, your clients, and everything else. So if you want a saleable business, if you want to hand your business over as a legacy business, then you're going to hand it over to your kids. You want to hand them something extremely successful that they can grow on and work forward. So that would just be my advice. God, family, and finance. Because we've talked about everything else, folks, okay?
That's like a tattoo right there. Let's go. That was a hell of an answer. Okay. As much as I would like to give you guys more questions, we have about 4 minutes here, so we're gonna take over a little bit, if that's okay with you guys. For those listening, because I bet some of you forgot that this is a live podcast, right? For those of you here, can you take this back? For those of you listening, I have a question for y'all. I know James got to ask his question, so now I gotta jump in here. It's only fair, right? So here's the question to you. At your lowest point during the business, when you felt like you couldn't see anymore, oh shoot, I took their mic. I thought it was their mic. Can I have the mic back? That's on me. I'm like, here's a cool question. Just kidding. So here we go. At your lowest point in the business, when it didn't seem like it was going to be able to keep going, what was the one thing that kept you going? Because I'm sure a lot of you here have been going through it, are going through it, and it's hard to talk about these things. You're not going to come and ask a question and be like, hey, I'm losing my shit over here. I need help, right? I don't know what's going on. You guys have been through it, are going through it maybe. I don't know. What kept y'all going at the one lowest point?
You're looking at me, so I'm going to start.
Well, you have the mic, yeah.
That doesn't mean anything in this group. I tried
You're
to get
not
it
wrong
last
about
time,
that.
you
Yeah,
took
you're
it
not
away
wrong
from me.
about that. You're right. You're right.
Okay. Which one of 100 examples do you want? I think probably one of the lowest times, we lost a third of our business. Too much of the eggs in one basket. And I really related last night to, well, we're at 5 million, now we're at 3, we're at 6. And I mean, it was a roller coaster of a problem. And I just sat there. I was up for quite a long time. And the words never, never give up. I had this little poster, and I forget what it was. I think it was a pelican trying to eat a frog, and the frog has the pelican by the throat. And he's got him halfway down its mouth and says, never, never give up. And by the grace of God and the support of my family, we didn't give up. We just, we got up, we showed up, we dressed up, we shut up, and we did our work. So there you go.
Yeah, you clap for that.
My rock is my wife, and that was like, we all have that true north, as Mark said. It could be your family, it could be to have enough wealth that you could go on to and provide, a missionary. But you need to understand what is that true north, and for me, it's my wife. She's my rock.
I love it. No, yeah. It's right here. Yeah, so we don't really, yep.
I would say first and foremost, number one, without a shadow of a doubt, is my relationship with God. I've been in situations where if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be here, sitting here talking to you guys today. And I'm talking about miracles. Like, I'll try to make it really, really quick. But I got sued by one of my ex-employees. I was looking at a $500,000 lawsuit. It was actually, they were trying to convert it into a class action lawsuit, which kind of comes into my experience with subcontracting. The very, very short version of it is that I needed a quick way out. At the time, I owned an airplane, and I called this lady that I was renting from, and I told her, hey, I need to give you the hangar back. She said, why? I said, well, I'm selling my airplane because I'm being sued. Literally on the phone in the parking lot of Chick-fil-A, she said, how much do you need? I don't know this lady from Adam, really. I said, I could probably get out of this lawsuit for $150,000. She just said to me, done. And I literally just sat in my car and cried. But those type of situations is the only type of situations. And so I called my attorney that night at 10 o'clock at night, told him the story. He's like, that never happens in my world. He said it never happens. And we ended up settling the whole deal for about $65,000. But it was just a total God thing. So my center is God, and then obviously my wife, she's been there through thick and thin, and my family.
Love it.
Thank you.
What a story.
First and foremost, I can reiterate what the gentlemen were saying. My family has been my driving force when things have gotten a little tough. I actually started the business before I met my bride of 28 years, and I probably would not have a business had it not been for her moving forward. But to put it very succinctly, what kept us going, what kept me going at some lowest points, you got 20 grand in the bank and payroll's 50, and you're standing outside waiting for the postman to show up, and you're squiggling, and I've had some true angels on my shoulder that, hey bud, can you give me 10 for a day? And I'll never forget those people. But just last week, a young lady won the U.S. Open, Coco Gauff. And in her speech, she wanted to thank the people that said that she'd never make it because they kept her going. And every one of you, when you started your business, you told somebody, you told friends, you told associates, and I guarantee you half of them turned around and said, yeah, good luck. They'll never be an entrepreneur. They'll never be successful. Well, like Coco, I heard from those people, from other people that weren't as good friends to them as they thought they were. They'd come back to me and they'd say, hey, this guy says you'll be back on your knees begging for your old job back within a week, a year, what have you. Those people were my Coco Gauff moments. So those are some of the things. But first and foremost, obviously I do have a great faith in God, but it's my family.
Love it.
Thank you.
I'll be fast. Two things. Definitely my family. Our business started back in 1979, and I've been with I joined the company in 2001. And My stepdad works there, my mom works there, my sister works there, my kids have worked there, my sister's kids have worked there, and so it's gotta work, because it's not just me, it's my family too. And it's their job, and it's their livelihood, and it's what's sending their kids to college. And then, of course, everyone, I've got about 170 employees right now in one of the companies, and I can't imagine what would happen if they didn't have their job tomorrow. And that's what keeps me going back every day, no matter how hard.
All right. Well, James Harper, can we just hear a round of applause for all of our expert panel, please? Cool. Well, hey, listen. Thank you so much for being part of the Profitable Cleaner. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much for the expert panel, everybody. Round of applause, please.